Hello, today I'm starting a new series on Jupiter through the houses. So I'm going to go through Jupiter's, because obviously it's the most benevolent of all planets. So I'm going to go through all the indications just so that we can learn a little bit more about it. And then we go through for the different ascendants. And so Jupiter is obviously Jiva Karaka, the very first thing, and that is the planet of vitality and life, basically. So it's the most benefic of all planets, and the ruler of the natural ninth and 12th house of the zodiac. So Sagittarius and Pisces are ruled by Jupiter. They're completely different there in their feeling. Jupiter in the ninth house will be more for pilgrimage, education, higher education, doctorates, master's degrees, justice, law, culture. It's a trinal house, and it's all those kind of Sagittarius, much more focused, much more preaching, religious, knowledgeable, and high wisdom. In Pisces, it's much more optimistic, much more letting go, much more to do with the vision of the bigger picture, making things very spiritual, and travel. Both of them actually has of travel, both ninth and 12th house. Ninth house is obviously more like pilgrimage, where you go and come back. So you might go either for religious reasons or for education when it's activated, and you will return home. And so let's have a look at the kind of things to do with that. It's obviously a planet of morals, courtesy, and devotion. And it's open-minded, spiritual. And Jupiter is also the significator of natural houses, second house, fifth, ninth and 11th house of the zodiac. So by that I mean that it rules house of family, wealth, values, opportunities, children, obviously, with fifth house and everything, luck, happiness, growth, education, travel, and knowledge. It's the significator of teachers and role models that we attract, people who guide us through life, and help us to actually put us on our path, our dharma, and give us knowledge and higher knowledge. It's also the significator of children, which is our most creative part of a human being, and is obviously creations and being creative, and all of that is very massive part of human life, really. It's also like when we got a really good fifth house, all things to do with the fifth house are really magical to us. It's so creative, and it's so willing to be self-sacrificing and devotional towards our child. It's very romantic. It's really rules like the physical heart, like Leo, that kind of thing. So it's just pretty outstanding, really. And they are like our biggest blessings of life, and our commitments to them is highly vibrational in the biggest scheme of things. So the energy we put into them help us increase the strength of our fifth house. It's also the significator of husband material. So a woman can be, or a man can, attraction will be like Mars. Obviously Venus for heterosexuals, the more gay couples Mars is still the attraction. But Mars obviously what we'll be attracted to, but Jupiter will be the husband material. So it's very different when a woman chooses to set up home with somebody than somebody who is just like looking good, just like thinking, are they going to be reliable when I have be set up home and have children. So Jupiter will, a really good Jupiter in somebody's female's chart will indicate that they want to have a partner for life, so they can bring and support their child, be very committed to the family. Jupiter rules the northeast of properties, generally speaking, in Vastu, and it's the condition of the chart. It shows the optimism and happiness of the person. So whether or not somebody can look at their situation like glass half full or glass half empty, and that's how their approach to life is really. So, but the good thing is, obviously, even if you have got a difficult Jupiter in your chart, with transits, we always get, even if it's not a good planet for you, I think it's much more blissful when it's in transit. And also with different dashas, it kind of really helps to activate that that Jupiter for the better. Excuse me, they're just checking my internet. So obviously the planet of opportunities, wherever it goes in the chart, you have that premise there of opportunities and situations occurring that the Jupiter will help you achieve, so you can tap into that. Jupiter is friendly with the Sun, Moon, Mars and Ketu. It's enemies with Mercury and Venus, and neutral towards Saturn. It spends roughly about a year in any sign, but it does retrograde back too during that time. But generally speaking, it takes 12 years to go around your chart, so 12-year cycle. So when you have a Jupiter return, that is 12 years have gone by. And it's a sign that allows you to explore the indications of the house and gives you opportunities, with its transits. It's exalted in Cancer at 5 degrees, the home of family, early education, nurture and stability, and love of homeland. It's debilitated at 5 degrees of Capricorn, which is sign of strive, climbing the ladder, ambition, government structure, and wanting more and more. And Motrikona is Sagittarius, 0 to 10 degrees in Mula Nakshatra, where you get to the bottom of things, build yourself a really firm foundation, and then build on that. That's what really Jupiter is best at, really. Just like, it's not a credit card, it is to do with wealth, but it's not a credit card type of wealth. It's not like Rahu. It's a type of money that gives you pleasure. So it's not necessarily always like extravagant in that sense. It's very much like build really good foundations and then have the focus, and having focus for that because of Sagittarius. Jupiter is a planet that gives you the big picture, philosophy, travel, culture and luck, happiness and wisdom, religion and spiritualities and other realms, charity. And because it's exalted in the fourth house of the natural zodiac, charity begins at home and a homeland first, and that will make you really happy. And women, especially mothers who are mothering a child, nursing a child. In Sagittarius, as I said, is focused and righteous, preaching and committed to goal-oriented and religious. In Pisces, it's open-minded, big-hearted, creative, more forgiving, bigger picture, and more spiritual rather than religious. Okay, so wherever it's kind of wherever it sits in your chart, it kind of protects that house and protects 7 houses from it by aspect, but it's got special aspects, 5th and 9th house, so a trinal one as well. So 5th house is from it. You also include the house that's sitting in. So if it's in your 1st house, aspects the 5th, 7th and 9th house. Gets directional strength in the 1st house. It's obviously in the, you can imagine it's high consciousness and high awareness spirituality, happy-go-lucky, that kind of thing. It's amazing. It's also, when it's in good condition, it can be really open-minded and tolerant, forward-looking, forward-thinking, positive and optimistic. Makes a fantastic advisor. All of these things that I'm saying, if it's in good condition, helps to move you forward. It kind of rules bankers, financiers, economists, judges, lawyers, generals. What else can I say about it? Spiritual advisors, professors, teachers, those kind of jobs, and justice. And it's also obviously rules justice, law, morals, ethics, universal law, social justice, and also it can be very idealistic and moralistic as well, because it is, you'll find that no planet is 100% brilliant, really, so there's always things going on. It is planet of joy and expansion, so the transit of that can have similar effects. Expansion, particularly if it's in the first house or aspect in the first house, but definitely, it's a first house. So respect and tolerance, affluence is all the other things that you can say about it. It rules fat, liver, high cholesterol, and edema when you actually get water retention. It rules Thursdays, color yellow or mustard, and it also rules yellowy kind of diamonds and citron gems as well. Obviously it rules Thursdays. It's debilitated, we said, in Capricorn at 5 degrees, but it's also it's not happy in Mercury signs. Mercury and Jupiter together, because they're both planets of teaching, learning, I should say, really, because obviously Jupiter is planet of very much to do with learning and publishing, because of the 9th house. Mercury is very much like information. Mercury can be gossipy, and fast information. But whereas like Jupiter is more like wisdom and high knowledge, that kind of thing. So this is the reason why it feels a little bit nervous in those sort of, it can be a little bit like, because obviously it expands everything, and Mercury can be very sort of multi-talented. It can like give you too much of everything, so it can be a little bit exhausting. So that's why it creates problems when it's in Mercury and Nakshatras, Mercury signs, being aspected with Mercury or conjunct with Mercury, because it's just like so much information, whereas like the focus goes out of Jupiter and becomes too much into everything. And obviously because it's a planet of judgment as well, so it can be a bit judgmental about those things. So I find that, like if you it almost creates problems with learning, actually. So like for example, Jupiter in Purva Bhadrapada can be like it finds it really difficult sometimes learning, but but it could be that it's much more of like a visual learner rather than theoretical, because it kind of overdoes things, and the person could be like constantly wanting to learn, and particularly in certain nakshatras and things like that, it can really give you that like, oh, I want to learn so much, but you don't really absorb the information. It's just about going through it, but not necessarily absorbing the information or application of the information. Obviously not friendly with Libra, because they're both planets benefics, but Jupiter is much more like discerning. It's kind of what it is actually. Jupiter is much more it's a little bit judgmental, whereas Venus is not judgmental. It's a teacher to everybody. It's not going to judge you in a sense that you think, oh, you come from a poor background, you come from, that kind of, your family's got money or anything like that, or maybe your family's religious or atheist. Whereas Jupiter can be a little bit more choosy about who they actually spend their time with. So you can definitely see that. Jupiter and Venus are quite an interesting one as well. So Jupiter, Venus, or Jupiter in Venus houses, it can give dissatisfaction as well, because there's always like, oh, I could, you know, particularly in love, you know, because Venus is planet of love. So with Venus, it can just get like, oh, it can be like, the person could be a really, really nice guy or nice lady, and they're just like, oh no, but they just did that wrong. You know, they could be a little bit like that too. So yeah, it's interesting. So we need to like rein it in a sense. If Jupiter is in the fourth house as well, so it gives you luxurious homes and luxurious cars and things like that, because wherever it is, it's bigger than normal, you know. That's definitely the focus. So these are the things to do with Jupiter. As I said, it's got directional strength in the first house, so it gives the person much more focus, a jovial personality, and fun to be with. I have an uncle of mine. I don't know his chart, but I can bet you bottom dollar that he has got Jupiter in the first house, because he's always struggled with his weight, and he is quite expansive midriff region, and he's just very fun to be with. You know, he's just got that lovely, I wouldn't say, because sense of humor is much more to do with Mercury, but it's just the happiness, you know, sharing, you know, like, and whenever we used to go out, you know, as a family and everything, we would stop more often than normal to eat or drink something, and he wants everybody to have fun. So that is very much Jupiter. And I think I did say, but it does rule, Jupiter rules Thursdays. So Jupiter, obviously, just wanted to say that we all get to have a go at Jupiter in the first house at some point, hopefully, if the dashas line up, you know, Mahadasha's planetary periods occur. And definitely in transits too. So there's this. So, you know, but also have a look at other Vargas or divisional charts. You know, in Vedic astrology, there are plenty of them. And have a look and see what condition your Jupiter is in different Vargas. And obviously, if Jupiter, you're going through a Jupiter dasha or subdasha, but particularly if you're going to the main Mahadasha of Jupiter, you can have a look and see in different Vargas if it is in the ascendant of any of those, because they also get activated with that too. It rules 3 nakshatras, Purnavasu, which is Jupiter nakshatras are always between two signs. So it's between Gemini and the first 3 degrees 20 of Cancer. So 10 degrees of last 10 degrees of Gemini, 20 to 30 degrees, and first 3 degrees 20 of Cancer. And then also the last 10 degrees of Libra and the first 3 degrees 20 of Scorpio. So that's Libra and Scorpio. And then also rules last 10 degrees, and that nakshatra in between Libra and Scorpio is called Vishaka. And then we have also Purva Bhadrapada, which is the last 10 degrees, so 20 degrees to 30 degrees of Aquarius, and first 3 degrees 20 of Pisces. So these are the 3 nakshatras. So with the dasha, those 3 nakshatras will get activated. And so what else do I want to say? Yeah, so just remember that, you know, like, so we all get a little bit of a go at, you know, during those dashas. And also, just wanted to also say that everything that I'm saying is for a Jupiter that has got, I'm not considering any kind of conjunctions or aspects, just purely the house placements. So anyway, so that's it. And now I do the different ascendants for you. Aries ascendant. So Aries ascendant having Jupiter in the first house, where it's massive blessing, because obviously it's the 9th house ruler in the first house. Jupiter also rules 12th house, but for the sheer fact that 12th house, and the same as the 8th house really, but 12th house is a neutral or you know, house in the sense. So they call that impressionable house. And therefore it does not affect you know, any yogas that you know, the planet actually creates. So therefore ninth ninth house ruler in the first house gives a very, very strong Raj Yoga of success and wisdom. So the person will be highly wise, educated, traveled, cultured, and very kind of optimistic, happy-go-lucky person. From there, it will aspect the fifth house of intelligence, children, and good luck from previous life. So that gets activated, which is really, really beautiful. And also, it's also aspecting own sign, Sagittarius, so protects that house, but also impacts the seventh house by aspect. So this means that, you know, it kind of blesses first, fifth, seventh, and ninth house. So the person will enjoy a good, happy marriage, children, and happiness and travel and abundance, really. And sometimes I just got to just say abundance is not always in money, but just that lovely kind of optimistic view of life. So for Taurus ascendant, obviously, you know, Venus is not friendly with Jupiter, so it rules difficult houses. It rules 8th house, which is impressionable, and a Dushtana house, and 11th house, which is a Kama, and also it's an Upachaya house as well. So it does get better with time. But generally speaking, it's not a good planet for this ascendant. So it just means that by sheer fact that it's in the first house, so obviously it's still a benefic, but it's a difficult one because it brings about 8th house things into the first house. So the person's life could be very much like to do with changes, sudden changes. It would be a transformational thing. The person will be amazing at research. It'll be just like very much, and it could have the difficult connotations if you concentrate too much on that. This is the thing that you got to understand. You can activate things. So I'm in the semi what do you call it? It's I'm going through a subdasha now where my 8th house is activated, and I had that a few months, well, maybe a couple of years ago as well. I had that for about 2.5 years. So you can either concentrate on the difficult things, or you can actually just like embrace change and use it to the betterment of your life. Excuse me. Excuse me. So this could be a life of changes. It could also mean that there could be a divorce. The person could be liable to have a surgery maybe during that time, or some sort of disease. And but it could also, it creates a dun yoga as well. So it's the first house rule of first house is occupied by 11th house rulers. So you yourself, you could bring sudden changes of in terms of wealth to yourself, that kind of thing. And it's also inheritance and taxes. So you could work with this. So I think somebody who has got this, they can possibly think, okay, so my life is going to be about changes. So rather than holding on to it, go with it. Just think that maybe this is going to be better for me. Their gains get better 11th house as time goes by. So they might actually find that friends and being with networks make them happy. They create situations, just being around 11 networks and elder sibling and friends, just brings luck in the money, sudden transformation of luck in their money situation. From there, obviously, it's also, again, helps from there the 5th and the 9th house as well. So that's amazing. And also the 7th house. So still kind of looks at those kind of things will be blessed. But it could be that, there'll be like some sort of sudden things going on with them as well, sudden accidents and things like that too. And it's also 8th house is a divorce. So it could bring on second relationship because obviously it expands everything, doesn't it? So for Gemini ascendant, this will be the 7th and 10th house ruler in the first house. So again, it's got directional strength. It's nice and strong. It also is from there, this is obviously rules 2 angles. So it's a strong planet for them and occupies another angle house. So really blessing many things. And so what it does also, because it's aspecting own sign from there, aspecting Sagittarius, it does kind of look after Sagittarius things. So that's pretty good. And so this could have a really good impact on your relationship and work, that kind of stuff. Creative work, really sort of expressive person, very lucky. With children and stuff, so, and they could have lots of children as well, you know, because it's like and lots of creativity too. So that's a situation with that one. Really good for work, makes the person very respected at work too. For Cancer ascendant, first house Jupiter will be an exalted Jupiter in the first house, very, very strong. For Cancer ascendant, this is a really nice planet because it rules, Pisces, which is their ninth house. So ninth house ruler in the first house. The only thing is also it rules the sixth house. So that can spoil, sixth house can spoil the fruits of that yoga. But it does get Jupiter. Also, sixth house is an upachara house, so they will have some obstacles, debts, enemies, all that kind of thing, and they could create those things really, or their dad can have health issues or have problems with the dad, like discord. But it does get better with time because they learn to do Jupiterian things to look after it, and again, obviously, looks after your fifth and ninth house and also seventh house. But really nice one, but just remember it just gets better with time. For Leo ascendant, Jupiter rules 5th and 8th house in the first house. So again, fantastic, planet for, somebody pointed out in one of the messages that I say certain words quite a lot. I know you're right, I do. I'm too old to teach myself new tricks, so I do apologize. Anyway, so 5th house ruler in the first house, nice and intelligent and romantic, loves children. From there, obviously, Jupiter will be aspecting own sign, 5th house, so gives blessings to the children, really wonderful, educated, well-traveled, well-cultured children. They could also have students who are just amazing too. And they would love astrology, 8th house stuff, and research. Their circumstances can change as well because 8th house ruler in the first house. So those are the things that can happen. But obviously from there, it's literally giving blessings to so many of their houses. But yeah, they just got to go with the flow, with when it goes to do with anything to do with changes, transformation, taxes, just go with it and use it for self-help, psychotherapy, astrology, the occult. That's the way to deal with 8th house stuff. For Virgo ascendant, this is going to be a wonderful planet because it rules 4th and 7th house. In the first house, it just makes you happy. 4th house rule in the first house, house of wonderful things. So now we have a situation where home and spouse are dear to your heart, and the spouse could be from your homeland, from families that you have grown up with as well, that kind of thing. And so the work could also be to do with travel because obviously 7th house ruler in the first house, and that also really makes them happy to be at work because 7th house is 10th from 10th, so that's naturally going to create a situation where they enjoy it. Lovely placement, protects the 7th house, so it just means everything to do with the 7th house has got that extra bit of help. And then we have Libra ascendant. For Libra, this is the 3rd and 6th house ruler in the first house. So obviously not a great planet for you. However, they both are planets that houses that get better with time. This would be also somebody who could work for themselves. I always find when 3rd and 6th house are connected, the person can be self-made in a sense because they put so much effort, energy, into into their work, 'cause 6th house is work. But yeah, they can be very hardworking. They can also be a little bit critical as well. 6th house rule in the 1st house, just because of the nature of Jupiter there is not happy sitting in that house. Very different to like Cancer ascendant. So yeah, they could just literally, they could be critical of their friends, or one of their friends could be their enemy or create that situation. They could also be very much like enjoy being with their siblings and cousins, or that kind of thing could be the flavor too. They also could be animal lovers. Libra ascendants, because Jupiter situation ruling your 6th house and your 1st house ruler is exalted in that house, it does you really good to be very, very on top of your health and healing, daily routine, and just getting all those things, being careful not to create your own obstacles. This will be really good because this is where you're exalted, so not to be sniffed at, if you like. Scorpio ascendant, so this will be 2nd and 5th house ruler in the 1st house. A very good placement. Jupiter does very well in Scorpio because it's friendly with Mars, and it can just deal with all those things to do with Scorpio. Now, when you have 2nd house ruler in the 1st house, you've got a Dhan yoga of wealth. 5th house ruler in the 1st house, a fantastic Raja yoga. Wonderful, highly intelligent, highly creative, highly romantic, just amazing. Children, blessed with children, because also from there, Jupiter is aspecting own sign Pisces, 5th house. Protects all of those things. These people could have luck when it comes to stuff such as investments, things that I don't normally like to say, but they could be, if it's also protected, the sign is not being afflicted badly, then yes, this could be a really lucky person. Family will be important to them, and they are likely to have a very close relationship with their immediate family. Really values are high, that kind of thing. Could also be a secret to do with the family too, because just the nature of Scorpio. But yes, that's very, very nice placement for these natives. Sagittarius ascendant. Sagittarius ascendant, this will be 1st and 4th house ruler in the 1st house. How amazing, 1st house ruler in the 1st house. This is amazing. This is just also the 4th house ruler in the 1st house. House of happiness, loving their family. It gives you a beautiful home, beautiful, large, extravagant home, probably by the sea or near the sea or near body of water because of nature of Pisces. But amazing. It's just very highly moralistic, good etiquette, devoted person, having Jupiter in that sign, and just really they could work with their mum. It just literally family and nourishment from family can be seen by that. So amazing. Or clearly it's aspect in 7th house, protecting that aspect in 9th house of travel too, as well as the 5th house of children. So you can't go wrong with this. This is incredible. For Capricorn ascendant, this will be 3rd and 12th house ruler, Jupiter, going into the 1st house. So Jupiter will be debilitated here. And this will be a person who can actually create their own losses. So they have to put effort into keeping things going, if you like. So you can say that part of the journey of this person is through losses. They will be encouraged to put more effort into things, be more brave, and they will actually rise through life, because no matter what happens, Capricorn is a rising, upward looking, and it's a movable sign as well. So it just means that your situation doesn't stay stagnant, it keeps moving. But it can be that this person every now and then needs to retract from the world just to regenerate, rejuvenate, and revitalize themselves. They are obviously they are being encouraged to generally try to be more brave and express themselves, because they can't express themselves very well and tell people, friends, colleagues, etc., you know, how they feel. So it just means that it gets lost in translation, if you like, a little bit. But it could also be that they're really good at foreign languages as well, because third house is speech, you know, talking, communication. 12th house is foreign lands. So maybe that's what their job is all about, really. But it does get better with time because of the nature of the third house. But it doesn't create like any kind of yogas, but of value. But it also, just by the sheer fact that it's Jupiter, it's Jupiter can give them, as time goes by, more wealth because of the situation. They will be hardworking if that is the situation for them, but they'll have some obstacles in the way to get them ready and prepared and brave to deal with what Jupiter and Saturn wants them to do. For Aquarius ascendant, Jupiter rules their money houses, 2nd and 11th house. In the 1st house, this person will be very, very good at money, family, wealth, elder sibling, all that kind of stuff. Their networks of friends are probably very influential, humanitarian people. Fantastic. This is going to be great for money. Obviously, aspects the 7th house protects that, and protects 9th and 5th house as well. Very good. For Pisces ascendant, this would be the 1st and 10th house ruler Jupiter in the 1st house. So amazing. Again, another one that's really good for success. Protects the 1st house, blesses the 5th house, which is where it's actually exalted 5th house of education, children. And their 5th house is Cancer, which is naturally homeland, family, mother, and happiness and stability. So for Jupiter to aspect that, it's just going to be phenomenal. 7th house also, as well as 9th house. So this is just very, very nice planet for them, doing good things. Really means that they create their own work, their own career as such. So that's it. I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you for watching. Thank you.